6 months before my thru hike, it was November 8th, 2014, my birthday. I was at the racetrack down in Florida with some friends, hit a corner the wrong way, high-sided, and flipped several times, and broke my back and broke my thumb in 3 places. Oh. So, yeah.
Say what we're doing tonight. Whenever there's a pause, as Megan likes to call them, awkward pauses. They're not awkward pauses. So
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're sitting around the campfire with your fellow hikers and everybody just kind of trails off and you like stare into the flames. That's not awkward.
That part's not awkward because there's fire. Fire makes everything better.
Fire makes everything. Well, I don't know about everything better.
Okay,
I accidentally touched some recently. That was no good.
Is Megan away again this week doing biological stuff, Green Giant?
She might be doing biological stuff right now, but if so, it's probably in her apartment bathroom because she is, as far as I know, setting up her microphones and joining us in a few minutes. So
okay, I'm glad because that would have been 2 weeks in a row. I think she needs to decide where her priorities lie.
So let's introduce some of these voices that we've heard. A lot of them are familiar to people who join us every week on our live hangouts. That's Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. But maybe some of the people listening on recordings or who are joining us for the first time don't know who we are or who all these strange voices are. And there's a lot of voices on the line tonight. I'm Gary Sizer, Green Giant, and you probably heard Crazy Larry talking quite a bit.
Hello.
Hello there, Crazy. Say hello, Crazy Larry.
Hey. Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Crazy Larry is the owner and proprietor of Crazy Larry's in Damascus. And you guys are probably, from what I can tell, you're getting some pretty steady business right now. You guys are really, really bringing them in, huh?
Well, it's kind of in between right now, Gary. I mean, last night was slow. Hardly any hikers in town. Tonight, it's just now starting to pick up again. So it's kind of coming in little small waves. But yeah, I guess we got them coming. I was down at the station 19E about, 4 or 5 days ago, and he told me there was a bunch coming,
Yep.
Out of earth stuff, so.
Yep. It's the middle of April as we record this, so the tip of the bubble is probably just now hitting Damascus, I would think. All of those.
Yeah, the tip. It's been coming like in small waves,
Yep.
And stuff. And a lot of people have told me that a lot of the people they started off with had already quit,
Oh, well,
a number quit every year anyway.
Yeah, especially during the early parts of the trail, especially people who started while it was, single-digit temperatures outside. Of course, the quit rate's going to be high.
First month's always the hardest.
Yeah.
So this
Mighty Blue stopped by here and saw me.
Oh, hey, yeah, Mighty Blue, Steve Adams. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on.
He didn't have much to say though. He was hanging out with his own crew. He got him a cabin over there at the old mill.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. So that other British voice that you heard, who isn't Steve Adams, is Keith Foskett, whose trail name is Fozzie. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Gary. Good evening.
Man, it's funny how you two guys sound alike. I'm BSing you.
It's by the way, I hate to be finicky and fussy, but it's English, not British. There's not strictly I suppose that there is a big difference, but English is much better. I prefer English, not British.
Is it a difference that you can explain in 15 seconds or fewer?
Yeah, English is basically if you were born in England. If you're British, you could be Welsh, Irish, Scottish, or English. It's kind of a collective term for the whole country. There's nothing wrong with being called British, nothing wrong with it at all. But if you're kind of patriotic enough, you'd say you were Scottish or Welsh or Irish, or in my case, English.
Anything but German, right?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get the Germans in for a second week running.
We have nothing against the Germans. This is a callback to I don't even know where the hell that came from last week. But
I love the Germans. I love all nationalities.
Yep. So Crazy Larry and Fozzie both occasionally join us, and we're always super excited to have them. Our regular crew, if you can apply the word regular to any of us, Reptar is one of our official co-hosts. Reptar, are you still driving home from work tonight, or are you settled in?
No, I just got home.
Okay, cool. Well, hi, Reptar.
Hi, Reptar.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, and that lovely lady's voice who you just heard is not Voldemort this week. I think she might be joining us pretty soon. I'm texting her, and she's getting set up right now. But we always like to have a featured guest hang out with us each week. And tonight we're especially lucky because we have someone whose trail name is Clarity. Allyson Hester is joining us tonight. Hello, Allyson, Clarity, Hester. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm excited to be here. How are y'all?
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, I've been excited I've been pestering you for how long now to be on the show?
I'm so sorry. You know, the crazy shit thing is I'm not on the trail living at 2 miles an hour anymore. I'm back in the real world going 100 miles an hour. And yes, and I apologize that it took you so long to convince me, but here we are.
Well, don't apologize, but rather take it as a compliment that we usually, after we ask somebody 7 times and they say no, we stop asking them.
Oh, I still had 4 to go then.
So I want people to hear. You have a lot of amazing stories to tell, and we're going to try to get you off on wild tangents and let you tell most of them. But we do have a little bit of a structure here and a few questions that I want to start off with. And I think the best way to do this is to really get your background. And I think it would be fun for you to share with everybody some stories from your outlaw biker days.
Sure. Okay. Well, I was an elementary teacher for 11 years who also raced motorcycles. 6 months before my thru hike, it was November 8th, 2014, my birthday. I was at the racetrack down in Florida with some friends, hit a corner the wrong way, high-sided, and flipped several times, and broke my back and broke my thumb in 3 places.
Oh.
So, yeah. So a little bit of a painful lesson there, and I learned that sand has absolutely no traction. There you go. Welcome to Florida. That said, I recovered, and 6 months later, a month later, I was cleared to ride a bike again, and I did, because I'm not going to quit on the lose. I rode for another year and a half, but once June 5th, my thru hike date arrived, I was cleared to hike with 34 pounds on my back and never had any problems. So I am blessed as hell to be walking and to have walked and to still be walking.
You say never had any problems?
No, I mean, nothing more than, a chiropractor can take care of.
Wow.
So, knock on wood. I've hopefully got a lot of life to live, but so far, yeah, things have been good.
Wow. How fast were you going?
Well, I was in the middle of a very technical corner, so not fast, thank God, or I would not be walking. Probably around 40, maybe 45 at most. Too fast for that corner.
Yeah, that's really fast. There's a really awesome picture on your website. That's the moment of impact, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got the whole series of pictures from the moment even before that, through the time when I ended up back on the racetrack to crash. I did pick the best corner to do it because the photographer was sitting right there.
So I just put that picture up in the chat. Does that mean I owe you $1 million now?
We'll call it even.
Wow. We got really lucky.
Oh, man, that looks rough.
Dude, that was shitty. It was so shitty.
All right, so you say 6 months after that, you're on the AT.
Well, yeah, it's about 6.5 because it was November 8th I crashed, and then June 5th I started. So 6.5, 7.
When did that idea first enter your mind?
To hike the trail? I was planning. Well, that entered my mind years ago. But I decided. So my crash was November 2014. I decided in September 2014 that was going to be my last year as an elementary teacher. I'd had it. So I decided, hey, it's this time I'm hiking the trail. So it was about 2 months before my crash.
Okay, just making sure it didn't have anything to like. It wasn't related to any kind of head injury or anything like that.
Well, some may argue that that's different, but yeah, the decision to do it was made before the crash. But actually, the follow through, some people question.
So, what was your experience on the trail or on any trails before you started the AT?
I had very little. Well, I had no overnight experience when I decided to do it in September. I had day hiked. That was it. But I'm a stubborn ass. And I knew, I was going to research the hell out of it. I was going to figure it out. I read Zach's Appalachian Trials, and I did all the exercises. I read all the books there were. I read all the books, and it's like, you know what? Fuck it. Maybe I've never hiked before, but I can do this. So in September, when I decided to do it, that did give me a few months, several months. And of course, there was the back break in there, which kind of took away a few of those months. But I guess my first overnight hike ever was Bob Gabrielson. He had an Appalachian Trail School in February of 2015, so just a few months before my June start. I took that just because I was so new and I had no idea how to even put a tent up, and spent my first night in the woods there. And then from between, I think that was February was when the class was. So between February and June, I spent 2 additional nights in the woods before starting.
And now the student has become the teacher.
It was a neat turn of events.
Literally, though, literally. Anyway, there's a lot that happens in between point A and point B, between those two things happening, because the student really is the teacher. So you hit the trail, right? You've done all of this preparation. As you're recovering from your back surgery, are you at some point thinking like, oh, maybe I'm not going to be able to do this hike? Or do you think the idea of your start date maybe even helped propel your healing process?
Well, I was very lucky in that my injury was a compression fracture. So it was corrected with a brace. I couldn't work for a little bit, had to wear a brace for a little over a month, and that corrected it. So luckily there was no surgery. But that was the first thing I asked my doctor, laying there in the hospital. I was in the hospital for a couple of nights while they checked on everything else, because that was a hell of a crash. And, that was the first thing I asked him. I said, hey, I'm leaving in June to hike. How is this going to work? And he said he'd have me working well before then, and he did. So once he cleared me and healed me to ride the motorcycle, at the same time, he said, you can start practicing with your backpack, but build up to it. And I did do a lot of hike exercises, mental and physical, to make sure my body was ready for what I was going to do to it. And I did focus some on my back as well to strengthen that.
What sort of pre-hike exercises?
So I've always been pretty active, but I upped it a little bit. I actually would take my backpack into the gym, and I would either throw 25-pound dumbbells in there, or closer to time, I actually took my backpack with all of my items in it once I had them. And I hit the Stairmaster on different levels, different hills. So I would do that for between 30 and 45 minutes most days. I mean, I had people coming up to me at the gym asking what the hell I was doing a Stairmaster with a Deuter backpack on my back.
This is easier if you put that down.
I did a lot of pull-ups and some, rows and things to really focus on the back and make sure it was strong enough. But my pack fit so well, it really didn't put a lot of stress on the back. So it worked. The one thing I wish that I had done more, as far as pre-physical exercise, is to actually wear my backpack for longer than 30 minutes at a time on a Stairmaster. Because my first days, I did flip-flop through hikes. So I started in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. And any of you guys who have done that section north, you know how easy it is and how easy Maryland is. But still, it hit me about 2 hours into my hike, even on that flat trail. Allie, you're an idiot. You trained on this Stairmaster. You wore your backpack for 30 minutes at a time. You never thought to walk around with it for more than an hour.
Oh, no.
So it was the longevity. That's one thing I would probably do differently, or tell someone, and I have told people differently. It's like, yeah, you can train for your strength, but also train for your duration and wear your backpack for longer than half an hour a day.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you're this incredible person. You're a motorcycle racer. You survived an accident. You've been physically training. You're this badass teacher. How many minutes were you on the trail before somebody came up to you and said, "Oh, are you hiking by yourself? Aren't you afraid?"
Oh my God, that is the question I still get. Weren't you afraid more than anything? How many minutes? Well, I ended up getting dropped off at highway. I think it was 340. So it was about a mile south of the Harper's Ferry town because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, oh, there's a trail crossing. Just drop me off there. And I was in Harper's Ferry and had been asked that, I don't know, 3 or 4 times because, you run across a lot of tourists, a lot of day hikers in that area. So before I got out of the town, out of the city, at least 3 or 4 times already.
Did you know that was coming?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. Being a female, I've had these. I know what questions. I hate to say this because you're going to surprise me with something, I'm sure. But I know which questions most people ask. Yes. So I knew that was.
Yeah. So what do you say?
Honestly, my answer to those people was, hell yeah, I'm scared.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
But I've never been one to let fear stop me. I used to be scared of riding a motorcycle. I used to be scared of getting on a ladder. Then I painted our second story rafters, whatever. So anytime I'm afraid of something, I try it because either you're going to realize you're still afraid of it and you at least tried, or you're going to get over that.
Okay.
So yeah, I was scared, but screw it, I'm going to walk anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So your answer is yes. You are afraid.
Sure.
Starting. What are you afraid of?
Especially being a single female, you hear of how scary people are. You hear of the bears. You hear, you hitchhike and you hear about all the horror stories there. You hear about women who have been killed hiking a trail. It's scary. You worry about, am I prepared and smart enough to not run out of food with nowhere to go? So yeah, there were a lot of worries, sure. But I did prepare for those as much as possible. And I'm sure you'll ask that question later. So,
or we could ask it now.
Okay. Well, one of the main questions that I do get asked, and that I would always get asked when I was Ridge Runner, is, did you carry a gun? And most women who are not hikers say, oh my God, you carried a gun, right? Like, that's the thing to do. And I researched the hell out of that. Like, do I or do I not? No, I did not carry a gun. Too much to deal with going between states with law changes, not having that gun not visible, but having it accessible, worrying about rust because we all know we're soaking wet all the time. No. And at the end of the way, fuck that. So I did opt though, because I wanted to be brave enough to do stealth camping in the woods by myself. So I wanted something. I opted for, it's 12 ounces, so it was pretty heavy, and most thru hikers do not do this, but I did carry a can of bear spray with me the whole time. I think I bounced it in a bounce box maybe a month. But otherwise, I had it with me. I used to, when I was walking, one step at a time out of 5 million, bored, counting, singing, I would actually practice scenarios. Oh my God, there's a bear. Oh my God, there's this crazy dude. And I would practice pulling my can of bear spray out, cocking it and getting it ready. So if that ever happened, I wouldn't have to fumble. I'd know exactly where to go and how to get that out without making a scene. And I used to always practice too. Hitchhiking, of course, is unnerving just because of the stigma attached. Hitchhiking seems to be overall a lot safer, obviously, in trail town. But there was that whole, what are you going to do if you're hitchhiking and someone pulls up and they're creepy for whatever reason? They're giving creeps. So I would practice out loud in the woods. I would practice seeing this really creepy dude. And I would say, oh man, thank you so much for stopping. I would shoulder, damn man, my boyfriend or my friends, whomever, they're not here yet. I'm sorry. Go ahead. There's no sense in me waiting. I'll catch the next one. So I had that practice so that it wouldn't sound like I was stuttering and making shit up. I did those weird little.
I can understand why a lot of people think it's through hiking if you're not going with anyone. If you're going alone, a lot of people are quite kind of scared or concerned about it. But it seems a bit strange because essentially, I mean, especially on the Appalachian Trail, you've got several thousand people doing the same trail over the course of 6 months. So it's kind of with the solitude, although you can get solitude. There's so many other people doing the trail. It's almost like, being afraid of being on your own. It shouldn't really enter most people's mind, really. Would everyone sort of tend to agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I'd agree.
I think, you are safer on the Appalachian Trail statistically by yourself than you are walking downtown New York by yourself. But yeah, people fear what they don't know. So unless you're dealing with a hiker or someone who just has maybe a slightly different mindset, at least everyone in my circles, they were all fearful and once I got out there, I think they figured out there's a lot less to fear than you would think.
I mean, we all sort of go out there, and like I said, if you're not doing the trail with someone, obviously we meet people out there, but you essentially all, if you're going out there on your own, I can understand the fears of that. But it's kind of like, I mean, if you put it in another perspective, it's kind of like saying, I don't know, going to a sports arena on your own, but there's several thousand other people in there. I always find it a bit kind of strange. And let's face it, I mean, it's not exactly difficult to make friends on the trail, is there? If anything, once you've sort of done a trail or done a couple of weeks, you realise that there's so many people on there that it's actually probably the easiest place in the world to make friends and to not be alone.
Yep.
Was that a camera? Did someone just take a picture?
No, I'm sorry. I just opened a beer. I apologize.
The beers are out already.
That's funny because that's actually one of our.
It's 7:30. I've already had a couple.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, if you said to someone in England, "I'm a trail runner," the thing that would spring to mind is basically that you run trails. I know in America it's got a different meaning, especially on the Appalachian Trail. I mean, when somebody said to me, I think I was up in the Smokies, and whoever I was hiking with at the time said, "Oh, there's a ridge runner up ahead," and I just assumed I'd see someone coming around the corner, in shorts and a pair of running shoes, and it wasn't until someone actually told me what a ridge runner was that I finally realised. So perhaps you could sort of tell, I guess, anyone that's not from in the States what exactly a ridge runner is and what exactly you do.
Sure. So we're jumping ahead a few months from the end of my hike. So my thru hike ended on December 7th, 2015. And at that point, I knew I was never going to teach again. I learned life is way too short to cry going to work every day. So I thought, what the hell? I saw a ridge running position open here in Georgia where I live. Hell yeah, I'm going to apply for that. It's with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. And basically, the way I kind of, I hate to use the term dumb it down, but the way I tell people who have no concept at all about trail is it's almost like you're a ranger, but you can't write tickets or do the cool stuff. You're a trail educator. You help people with whether it's a medical emergency or anything any hikers that need help, you help the hikers. You carry out trash. You help with, down trees, things like that on the trail. But I had the best role. I was actually stationed at Amicalola Falls. So my trail was the first 5 miles, I guess, of the approach trail. But even more than that, my main role during the busy season I was at Amicalola welcoming hikers, helping them sign the register, getting them ready. I would do backpack shakedowns with them. I would be there to answer all the mama's questions, which as a former elementary teacher, I was in my element. They're all coming and they're all starting this new journey and they're all scared. They're all, intense and nervous and they have 100 questions. And I was there to answer those 100 questions. I was there to give them my contact information and to reassure them that there are ridge runners all the way along the trail with them and that we're there to help them. And there's actually a pretty well-written article on my blog about what a ridge runner does. My blog site is AppalachianTrailClarity.com. So it is there as well with a little bit more detail than to here. But it was a seasonal job, 3 months, best job I've ever had. I woke up not giving a shit if it was Monday or Saturday. It didn't matter. Every day was play. And God, I missed it.
Were you out there for sort of a relatively short time? I mean, if you were doing the start at Amacola, was it kind of like, the bubble came and went and then was sort of, I expect you went from like ridiculously busy to sort of quiet in the space of a few weeks, or?
Yeah, it was 3 months actually. So training started in February, and I believe my first shift was the first day of March. Maybe it might have been the week before, and I went through the end of May, which it did, or middle of May, and it did slow down a lot. And here's where you've got those forks in your road of life where you always question. I was actually offered with the Appalachian Mountain Club a ridge running opportunity in Monson, Maine as well. And what a badass opportunity. I didn't take it. But to have been in the same season, to have been the one to greet and help the hikers at the beginning, and then to see them just before the 100-mile wilderness. And I didn't take it for numerous reasons, none of which I really regret. But I always wonder, damn, dude, what would life have been like
Yeah, for sure. So was it just the 1 year you're doing it, or are you doing this every year now, or?
No, I only did it for the one season. And life, man, so I finished that in May, and I actually ended up a few weeks later, I got a job at a beer brewery, which was a dream. So I'm a taproom manager of a local beer brewery here. It was brand new. So I helped it grow. Hence my love of beer. That was one of the reasons I thru hike, was to brew hike, to hit all the breweries and pubs, which was really fun. But then a couple of months later, I got a full-time gig at the University of Georgia, which also allows for a lot of travel. I've gone to Costa Rica a couple of times, DC, I've had dinner with the governor. So it's a neat position. So I work 2 jobs right now, and there's the busy of life. But yeah, so unfortunately I did not continue working on the trail. Life, man, I'll tell you, those jobs were amazing. So
when you went to DC, was that the gala that the ATC had?
Must be a fantastic job to have.
The fundraising gala.
The best job, not best job description, but just best job name ever. I mean, Ridge Runner, it just sounds cool, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Gary, you said something about the gala.
Yeah, was that what you meant when you said you went to DC?
No, well, I've gone to DC. Yes, there too. That's right. But I've gone to DC a couple of times with my UGA job as well. But yeah, the Appalachian Trail Conservancy invited me to be a guest at the gala, which was a really badass opportunity. And I got to see Katie and Green Giant. And I've at a couple of Appalachian Trail kickoffs as well. So, I mean, it's neat. I'm staying in the community, but not nearly as much as I want to right now. But that'll change one day, hopefully.
So I've got a question in regards to the ridge running job. So you were on for 3 months. How, what is the scheduling like on that? Are you ridge running 5 days a week, or is it a week on, a week off? How does that work?
You were 5 days a week. The season that I did it, my weekend was Monday, Tuesday, which are the slower days on the trail for hikers to start. And I'll tell you, man, we had people, they started early that year. And I guess they're starting earlier and earlier every year. But our busiest month, where I probably worked, 60 or 70 hours a week, but I loved it. You don't get overtime, but who cares, because you're working with hikers. It's fun. Let's see, March and into the beginning of April. And if I remember correctly, about the second week in April, it started to slow down just a little bit. Every week it got a little bit slower. And then toward the beginning of May, I was doing a lot more on-trail things, like on-trail cleanup, and rather than sitting at the visitor center helping as my primary, because we were just a lot slower.
Stick a pin in on-trail cleanup, because I want to get back to that. But real quick, have you ever at any point calculated, since you're basically 24/7, and like you said, there's no overtime, just for fun, you ever calculate what the hourly rate of a ridge runner is?
I know what I made, but it's not much if you look at the hourly. And I mean, I can tell you what the pay is different depending on which area of the trail you're on. So Monson was going to be a couple of dollars an hour more than what I made here at Amagola. It was, I hope I don't.
You don't have to say. You don't have to say. It just.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this.
Unless it's unless you want to from like a recruiting standpoint.
I don't. It's a great job. I'd recruit you there any day. I don't want to misspeak because it's been a couple of years, but I believe it was 11 or 12 an hour. But again, it's for 40 hours. So no,
and kind
please don't quote me on that.
No, and I'm not really too hung up on the specifics. What I'm kind of getting at is that it really is a labor of love.
Yeah,
especially
that it truly is.
Especially when you take into account the full extent of what on-trail cleanup really means. And
the ironic thing is, when you look at a Ridge Runner's job description, on-trail cleanup is not on it. But all of us do it because every single person who is ridge running is doing it, like you just said, as a labor of love because we love that trail. And God, man, there was one time on the approach trail, I found this hanging from this one tree, 2 freaking pairs of shoes, another backpack, like a separate little day pack, I guess they packed, trekking pole. It looked like it was, you could tell it was junk. You could tell it was left there. There was no one else around. It weighed 27 pounds, just that one person's gear that they decided onto the trail. Oh, that Ridge Runner back there was right. And I am carrying too much weight. So I cleaned that up and carried that back down. I mean, we have found everything from Crown Royal bags of weed to giant skillets, like cast iron skillets.
Of course.
Cast iron. Do you say a cast iron skillet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I found a couple of those in one spot. To left behind cheap tents. So, yeah. And the approach trail, I think, has a lot more of that because you've got a lot of people that shed their gear. Y'all know, if you've done the approach trail, you know what a bitch it is. It's hard as hell. So a lot of people shed their gear there. So it's less trash, maybe, and more. But there's still a lot of trash. But it's just you're carrying so much weight of so much gear when that's the part of the trail like, managing.
I still can't understand the mentality of people that not just leave trash on the trail, but I mean, a whole backpack. What's the
right? Someone else will pick it up. There's Ridge Runners.
I just don't get it.
Especially when you have a Ridge Runner down there at the visitor center telling you, hey, dude, let me help you empty your pack a little bit. You're carrying way more weight than you need to. And they're like, nah, I got this. And then they get up there and I don't got this. Oh, there's a Ridge Runner behind you. She'll pick it up. And she did. That's what we do.
Well, it kind of reminds me of that guy that thought that he needed gunpowder to start fires on the trail. Do you remember hearing the story about that?
I remember that.
No, I don't remember that one.
He brought out some gunpowder with him, thinking that he'd use that to start a fire. And I think he ended up blowing his hand off or something.
I think you're right.
Oh my
God.
God.
Damn.
I think I did hear something.
Yeah, I think it was in 2016, maybe
16 or 17.
The year after I did it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was one of the early rescues too. Like he was one of those January starters.
That's when I was ridge running, so I guess that's why I remember that. Yeah, I remember hearing this story.
That guy must have had no shortage of trail name suggestions, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
So I see.
Strangely enough, I can't think of one, but I'm sure there was plenty.
So I see that Voldemort has joined us. Speaking of trail names, hi Megan.
Oh, she's back.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, Clarity. I'm sorry I was a little late, but I've been lurking here in a very creepy way, just listening. Didn't want to interrupt you, but I do have a question for you.
Well, can I just say I feel like I know you already. That is all. Yes, ma'am.
That's wonderful. So you talked a little bit about, of course, what a Ridge Runner does, and that you're honestly picking up trash is not part of your job. I think a lot of hikers don't quite understand what Ridge Runners do, so I think it's great that you're talking about that. But I want to know from you, from your perspective, your time as a Ridge Runner, do you feel that specifically have, I guess, is there a relationship with ridge runners lacking? Like, do you think thru hikers should maybe understand a little bit more about what ridge runners do, or have a different sort of relationship with ridge runners?
Sure. So I believe that the year that I ridge ran, the ATC kicked it up a notch and had more of us. They hired more of us then. And I think it was due to the increasing numbers of hikers, just the trail problems, overcrowding, and the need for education with those growing numbers. So I believe that might be part of the solution, because when you have someone stationed at the visitor center, they're greeting these hikers, and they're right there telling you, hey, this is what we do. We're here for you. You're telling parents, don't worry, mama. There's one right after me. There's one right after him. And you're there and you're helping them and you're answering any question they have. And then they get to Springer. And guess what? There's a ridge runner stationed at Springer. So, oh, here's another one. Cool, badass. Here's what I learned on my first day on the trail. And so, and then, 30 miles down the trail, you have another 20 miles down the trail. When my year, there were either 6 or 7 of us. I think there were 7 of us stationed between Amicalola and the northern end of the Smokies.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So I think, yes, definitely. When the year that I thru hiked, I only ran across one ridge runner. And granted, I flip-flopped, so my timing was a bit different. But I thought of him more as like, oh, my God, if he catches me, smoking or whatever I'm doing at the time, what's he going to do to me? I thought of him more as a ranger and less of a foe, But again, I don't think the ATC had quite as many on trail that year. It was the following year. And they are, as far as I know, they're still stacking the trail, especially at the beginning, that first half of the trail where you've got so many new people all on the trail at the same time. They are still stacking it pretty heavily. So hopefully that helps.
That's good. Yeah, my year that I hiked, I think I only ran into 2 ridge runners. I want to say 2, maybe 3 for the entire hike. And one of the ridge runners I ran into him in Georgia, North Carolina, and also in PA. Like he started off there and then moved up to, I think it was PA. And that was in 2014.
Yes, you and Gary hiked the year before I did. So
was that the guy with the mohawk?
I feel like. Sorry,
was that
Gary?
the guy with the mohawk? I forget his name.
I don't think he had a mohawk. His name was Blue Eyes.
Oh, okay. I know who you mean. Yep.
Dream.
Yeah, he gave me a ride into town down in I think it was Neil Gap. Maybe it was Neil Gap. And then I ended up running into him again further down the trail. But I didn't really run into many ridge runners. And so I mean, I didn't lean on ridge runners as a resource other than Blue Eyes down south because I didn't see it. And I also didn't know that I didn't really understand that they were a resource for information.
Right.
I thought they were just maintainers. But from what you've been saying, ridge runners do a ton more than what I thought ridge runners did back in the day.
Yeah,
so I think it's good that they kind of stepped it up with more ridge runners and with, having more in the beginning so that hikers know and have the opportunity to ask them questions.
Right. The primary job that you're taught. And ridge runners actually go through a week of training up in the Smokies. So you are taught your main job is education, educating on leave no trace, educating on safety, educating on resources. It's education. And that is obviously where we can have the biggest impact long term. The more people we can teach and educate, the better. So yes, we do trail maintain. We do all of those other things too, even things out on the job description. But the main purpose of a ridge runner is to educate the hikers using the trail.
So I have a question.
Awesome.
Oh, I got a quick question to kind of address one of the comments that you made prior to becoming a ridge runner, how you thought that ridge runners were kind of like rangers in a sense. And I'm just kind of curious about what happens as a ridge runner when you come across somebody, breaking the rules, so to speak, or like breaking a law or something? Because like you said, you can't issue tickets or anything, but I'm sure you're in contact with rangers.
That's a great question. And that is the question I had before I knew what Ridge Runners did as well. Okay, Ridge Runners carry little iPads where they make notes. You know, if there's a hiker being notoriously obnoxious all the way up the trail, or, you know, if there's this already, or drawing a blank here, the other disease that people get. Anyway, if there's something goes in our nightly report. No, what we were told, we asked that question in training. Hey, you know, I'm just going to use this as an example. Hey, what do we do if we see someone at the shelter smoking weed? Well, the rule of thumb is if these hikers aren't bothering anyone else, leave them alone. You know, even a sample question of, well, you know, what if someone's hiking inside, or smoking inside the shelter and it's bothering people? You know, well, at that point, you go say, hey, dude, just take it outside, or, you know, you just diffuse the situation with the parties. If someone's breaking a law that's harming someone else, I mean, we all carry radios. We all had cell phones when we had service. So there were options to get help if needed immediately. But something like a rule like that, you know, if we're sitting around the campfire and people are throwing things like, you know, cans or something into the fire that's not going to, or really anything, probably they're throwing anything in the fire, you try to educate them on, hey guys, you know, you think that burns down, you think that tinfoil burns, but it doesn't. You think that cigarettes burn down, they don't. You know, someone has to come behind you and clean all these fire pits by hand. Privies are huge too. Privy education. Because literally volunteers, trail volunteers who don't get paid a dime, go through all that shit and pick out the shit that ain't shit. They pick out those wet wipes. They pick out those tampons. They pick out by hand anything you throw into a privy that's not shit or toilet paper. So trying to help people understand it doesn't just disintegrate and go away into rainbows and butterflies, la la land. Someone literally has to pull it out that's not even being paid a dime. So it's more things like that. If you see someone doing something wrong, you try to educate them unless it's something super serious. Then obviously you can get help or intervene however you can.
What shelter in the Southeast has the cleanest privy?
That's a good question, because the area I worked, there was only one privy in the area I worked. It was a Black Hawk shelter, and it was never clean. As a matter of fact, people would take shits behind the shelter. So not even digging holes. I cleaned that a couple of times, which was the most disgusting moment in my life. I can't answer that question. I don't know. With my flip-flop too, it was a little different. Most of the ones in the South were clean by the time I came down. So.
All right. Well, since we're kind of already on the topic, and this is something that comes up every show, I can see people in the chat room are already cheering for this. What's your best poop story? And it doesn't have to be a ridge runner story. It could be from your hike. It could be an embarrassing moment at the movies. Anything.
We should just start calling this the shit show.
Oh boy!
I'm not going to call it. I'm not going to call it my best one.
Poopy story.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this one. So this is actually still a ridge running story. Part of our training, part of our training is on poop. All right. So, but there was the time on my thru hike that I literally stepped in human shit. That was not a great moment on the trail.
Oh, I did too. I told my story last time I was on the show. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Cheers.
Maybe it was a while ago. Yeah, stepping in human feces. That's always a good time.
Oh, that was awful. And it was at the end of a bad, cold, rainy day too, so I was just pissed. I was pissed there.
Oh, mine was rainy and cold as well.
Now recording.
I'll tell you, Voldemort, reading Gary's story, Where's the Next Shelter? Our hikes had so fucking much in common, it's not even funny. Like, we stopped at a lot of the same places, meeting people the way you and he kind of bounced around. I've got so many, I know we're low on time, I've got so many fun stories of how people I met even before my hike. I started my hike June 5th from Harper's Ferry. But I drove up the trail days 3 weeks before, May 15th, which is where I first met Mr. Crazy Larry. Stayed at his hostel. Met Pie, Blade, Cheesebeard, Click, this really cool group of guys. My first day on the trail, which was a little over 3 weeks later, in Harper's Ferry again, I'm like, what the fuck did I just do? What am I doing? I'm out here by myself in the woods. I'm hiking, and I'm supposed to go to Maine and then come back. What? And who did I run into 4 hours into my hike with those guys? And obviously, they had their trail legs. You know, they're super fast. We hang out for a couple of days, and they're gone. Like, man, damn, never going to see them again. And then here we come to Hanover, New Hampshire, right when I'm starting to feel a bit lonely, because I am an introvert, and I like that me time. I enjoy the hike by myself. But I was just getting a little nervous about the whites and about Maine. And who did I run into? I think it was Ramuto's, whatever that pizza place is that gives hikers a free slice. I ran into that crew again, and we hung together all the way to Katahdin, which was their finish. But there are so many crazy parallels. I'm already reading Gary's book a second time.
Oh my
That's awesome.
Oh no, don't do that. You'll find all the typos.
Doing that.
It is. The trail provides some. Just the blueberry, same thing. You know, like Gary mentioned in this book. It's like, I'm feeling so dehydrated, so thirsty. There are no water sources. There was one particular spot in Pennsylvania. I forget the name of the gap. But anyway, you go like 15, 16, 17 miles without water and walk up this big ass rock quarry. And anyway, long story short, there were blueberries up there. They say you're not supposed to eat them because there was some kind of chemical, but I didn't. And I'm still here. And they were good. Sorry, I totally derailed the Ridge Runner conversation, but I wanted to tell the cool story.
Gary, did we get the poop story recorded?
I don't think we did, and the
Craig had some issues.
Yeah, the server kind of crapped out on us for about the first 90% of your poop story, so we actually didn't get any of it. So,
well, I'm not going to call it the most riveting story in the world, but it is educational on the topic of Ridge Runners and what they do. So part of our training, we get trained for a week, and part of our training is we're broken into pairs, and each one of us, one pair is given a trowel, one pair is given trekking poles, and one pair is given boots. And you dig a 2-inch hole and see who can do it the fastest. Because, you know, you hear people say, oh, I don't need to carry that little 2 or 3 ounce trowel because I can dig a hole with my boot, or I can dig a hole with my trekking poles. And they actually take us out there and show us how hard that really is. That they not quite as efficiently, not quite as well as you can with a simple trowel. And they give you, they teach you that. They let you see that as the Ridge Runner, so you can explain that. And you can let people know, hey, dude, if you're like me, you got to go quick. Here's your quick. It's a 3-ounce trowel, 80 cents. So that was kind of cool to see. I had already thru hiked and experienced the whole trying to pull with my boot and trekking poles. But for people who are just starting and don't know, people do think that. Like, oh, I don't need a trowel.
Can I make a suggestion for next year's training?
Yes.
So that we perform the same experiment, but an hour before we start, each of the contestants has to eat an entire Mountain House chili mac and 2 teaspoons of Imodium.
That'll do it. I will pass that along, Gary.
We want to create a sense of realism for the training. You're not always just digging a hole. You want to dig a hole fast. Maybe that should be an initiation for people wanting to thru hike. All right, here's the one thing you got to go through.
Welcome to Amicalola. All right, here's what you have to do.
So is there any Ridge Runner training?
Dig a cat hole.
Is there any Ridge Runner hazing?
Mountain House chili mac.
That one's the one that'll do it the quickest.
I was going to ask if there's any Ridge Runner hazing initiation rituals.
Not really, no. Other than we spend a week training. The ATC has a center, a little house, or big house actually, near the Smokies. I believe it was a little south of the Smokies. But yeah, it's not on the trail or anything. But we spent a week there just learning. We learned emergency, trail first aid, which was hard. That was way out of my CPR and all that kind of stuff. But it was good to learn. So yeah, never hazing other than it was a neat experience.
Do you have a wrap party at the end of the season, or like a reunion, like class of 16 Ridge Runners get together and hang out? Or
I wish we had but what happens is some of the Ridge Runner seasons are longer. So, for example, the people Ridge running in the Smokies were out there longer than me and at Amicalola, and then of course you've got people all the way up the trail because so no one's season actually ends necessarily on the same day. But our few that were kind of centered in Georgia, we did get together and just had a couple of drinks and a dinner. It was like, man, it's really cool. Kind of went over some stories together. Ridge running is pretty lonely. It can be pretty lonely, but I know we're short on time, so I'm not going to keep us late.
Oh,
I'm kind of curious about in terms of when you have off time. Do they provide you with housing in the off time, or are you just kind of left to your own devices?
You are kind of left. So I live in Athens, Georgia, which is 2.5 hours from Amicalola. So I would leave late on that Sunday, and because our weekends are Monday, Tuesday, and drive home. So I actually had a home to go to. And a lot of people here in Georgia, at least, did have people they knew around or family around. They had places to go. But yeah, you're just kind of left. Really, you're not provided. Amicalola had they have a shelter, the Max Epperson shelter, and they had a little bunk house where people could come to. We had some local Ridge Runners that might come there and hang out for the weekend at Amicalola and have heat and electricity, but that was about it.
And okay, so was it kind of on you to provide yourself with a means to, say, resupply, or like, so you'd work 5 on, and then on your day off, did you have to go to the grocery store and, kind of do your laundry and everything and then get ready to go back out on trail?
Yeah, pretty much. Now, we did, most of the time we were 24/7 because we needed to be out there at night primarily. And obviously during the major hiking hours. But if a Ridge Runner needed to leave that one morning or, leave a couple of hours during the afternoon to go do their laundry or, go pick up some food because they're running, that is accepted. But they're not asking you to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what it ends up being. That's what you end up doing because most people who are Ridge running have either long distance hiked or through hiked, so they know what they're doing. Most of the time they don't get into that situation, but it is permissible. If you a couple of hours a night, you can close yourself or go somewhere or go pitch your tent for a few hours and just be on your own. So that is allowed.
Yeah, that sounds pretty rad in my opinion. I mean, I think I'd probably try to be spending the most time out, as possible given the opportunity.
Absolutely. So if you go on the Appalachian Trail Conservancy's website, they're not going to be hiring most likely for this current season, but I know the year I did it, they hired me in January. I applied in December, right after my thru hike. So that's just something to know if, keep it. And the AMC as well, if you're interested in some of the northern areas, the Appalachian Mountain Club is what it's called up that way. They hire their own trainers. The ATC is, I don't know where the divide line is, but I know it's from Georgia to, I know through Virginia. It's probably higher. Yeah, Maryland, Pennsylvania. So I'm not sure where it becomes AMC's territory.
Go ahead, Gary.
I was going to say they're pretty vocal about letting people know that hiring and selection season has begun. If you follow pretty much any AT related Facebook group, or if you're on Twitter or Instagram, you'll see, right around that time of year, you'll see the ATC start publicizing that, hey, we're looking. And
it is getting more competitive. I think too, the more people that actually complete their hikes or that get into hiking, it's just kind of the thing people are doing now, more and more every year. So, but if you've been a thru hiker and you're decent with people and education, you have a good shot at least getting an interview. Your first interview is your main interview is on the phone. Actually, I never did my first interview, but.
Well, I know it was pretty early on after, seeing our first Ridge Runner, Voldemort and I probably had a conversation on the trail where it was at least dropped casually that, wouldn't it be cool to, like, everybody kind of thinks about it,
Yeah.
it turns out it's kind of cool thing
It
to do after all.
Oh, dude, it was cool. It's the one time in my life I never gave a shit if it was Sunday or Saturday. And I woke up every day not even caring. It's like I know I have to work today, but it's more like I get to work today. It was it was a neat way to not deal with some of the post-trail depression that many thru hikers go through and that I've gone through since then, and continue sometimes with that. But it was a neat segue between December 7th thru hike over, holiday whirlwind, oh my God, now what? To right after Christmas, I already had a job line as a ridge runner, so I'm getting back out on trail, getting paid for it while I figure out what the hell I'm going to do for real. So it was honestly for thru hikers, especially those just finishing, it's really something to consider to kind of let you down off that trail high a bit gently.
Yeah. Do you want to?
So
do you mind talking about post-trail depression for a little bit? We generally record until about 8:30. I don't know if we mentioned that or not. So we do have time.
Me 8, but I am totally game. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't keeping y'all late. Yeah, I can talk about the trail.
No,
no. At some point, Gary will start talking about how he has to go make dinner, and then we'll know it's time to go.
No. I have to go make dinner. Okay. I just have to go eat dinner.
Yeah. So I actually have a blog article on that as well. Most of what I'm talking to you guys about, I do have articles detailing that on my blog. It became more of an informational blog site when I started Ridge Runner. Before that, it was my. But let's see, it's called Post Trail Feelings, and I can only speak from my own personal experience. But I tend to be the type that I go 90 miles to nothing, as I know Green Giant is. And I was an elementary teacher, which is a job and a half, and tutored kids after school to make extra money. I had just gone through a hell of a divorce 3 years before. I was trying to figure shit out. What is the key? Is the key saving for retirement? Is the key living for right now? So that's where my hike came in. I needed clarity, and that's where the trail name came from. That was the purpose of my whole journey. And the hardest part was I had to leave my dogs for 6 months, but I had people renting my house, friends of mine. So, bam, taken care of. They took care of the dogs. Post-trail depression. Like I said, I think I would have been hit a hell of a lot harder with it right off the bat had I not been ridge running. But, you once you have slowed down life to 2 miles for months upon months, and you've walked in the rain and you've bitched about that. You've been miserable, cold, but then the next day has been beautiful and sunny and 78 degrees, and blueberries and bridge walking. You really learn to appreciate that 78 sunny degree day way more than we do even now. Even when we have a roof over our head, sure, it's a nice day. I'm so glad it's pretty outside, but you don't internalize it with the trail. So once I got home, for a long time, I was able to appreciate when it was pouring down raining, just like 501 shelter, man. That bitch had 4 walls and a roof. I was happy as shit. My house, same thing. It's like, it's freaking freezing. It's December. It's raining. And my last 500 miles of my hike were pretty miserable, to be honest. Walking through Hurricane Joaquin in Virginia with the trail was like a river. Freezing cold. Shenandoahs didn't get a single view because it was all fog. So I got home and I was able for a long time just to be very, very happy. I have a roof. I'm back with my dogs. I can see my family. But then as I find myself, I've gotten back into the crazy of, working 2 jobs. And right now I'm in grad school because it's free. So why not? I do pine often for that slower paced life, but it's not the same to try to slow it down here as it is with trail. I don't know. To me, the answer, I find the answer, there's a river about a mile. It's one of the most beautiful spots coming through hiker, I would say. When I first got home, one of the first things I did was went to Walmart, which really made me miss the trail more than life itself. And then one of the next things I did was went to my river. It's not my river, but a mile away. And I posted a Facebook post that I see every year in my memories that said, I just finished walking 2,200 miles, and the most beautiful place I've ever seen is in my backyard. That river spot is my healing place, and it has been my whole life. So I think, to deal with those feelings, journaling helps. I journal a lot. Finding your place, finding your beautiful place, whatever that looks like. Staying engaged in life, whether it's through hiking or whether it's through these really badass cool jobs you find, or whether it's through a relationship. Just finding that passion wherever you can. And if life ever throws you that opportunity again, shit, go do the PDT. I'm still waiting on that opportunity. I'm hoping the JMT is probably more on my radar. But just find those opportunities to do whatever you can to get yourself out of that, because we can succumb to depression and die miserable, or we can figure out how to get out of it for our individual selves and find whatever strategy that is. Live this one life with God.
That's awesome. I'm quitting my job now. Thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't even say. I wish I could. Well,
no, I'm not going to quit my job, but
we're full of shit.
I like the way that you frame that too, that you're kind of waiting for the next opportunity, or I guess open to the next opportunity to go hike a long distance trail. Because when I finished the AT, I was all gung ho. Like I know all the trails I want to do now. Like I'm going to do a bunch of them, but life happened and things changed, and I'm actually really happy in my job now. I feel like I have better perspective after my hike, but I also know that I can always quit my job and go hike a long trail if I want. But I like the idea of not beating myself up, or I guess for anybody, not beating yourself up about the next hike and being open to the opportunity. Like it might come up down the line, but being okay with life right now as it is, even if it means I can't leave and go spend 6 months in the woods or 5 months,
right?
Whatever.
Last summer, I planned to hike the JMT last summer, and unfortunately, we had a suicide in my family, which changed the plans. But I did end up I flew out to Utah and rented a car and took the most badass road trip. I had no plans out there. I was like, I might end up in Wyoming. I might go to Montana. I don't know. But I found the Mighty Five, which is the 5 national parks right there in southern Utah. And then Grand Canyon was northern Arizona. And had the best time. Just hopping from park to park, spending a couple of nights in each one, hiking, going to the next one. So there was so much fucking adventure in that I was as fulfilled as if I had have done the JMT. So it's not necessarily, even if you can't take a month or 6 months, find something somewhere that can make you feel alive again until your next adventure, and whatever that would be.
Love that. That's some great advice.
Thanks. I'm still trying to live it. That was last June. I need something else.
So one of the things that you mentioned earlier in our conversation about your hike is that one of the thoughts that went through your head as you were starting the trail was, I'll never teach again. And, I think that's kind of ironic because, that's what you do now. And
right. And that's what I did as a
and not just
never teach elementary public school again.
Right. And not, but it's in you. Like it's in you. You've got that teacher spirit. Like you can tell it's there. Like no matter what, I feel like if you just decided like you were going to be like, I don't know, try bowling next year, like not only would you suddenly become like within a year, I predict you'd be a bowling coach. You know what I mean? Like,
thanks. Thanks, great job.
Yeah. So, one of the other ways that you express that teacher spirit is through your writing too. You mentioned journaling. And we've put a few links to your blog in the chat room, and we'll put that in the show notes for sure. But tell us a little bit about what your blog is about and what you do with it.
Sure. It started as Clarity's Trail Journals, which are still on there. Every 100 miles, I journaled about that 100 miles. And it was the first time I was always a good writing teacher. I always enjoyed writing, but it was the first time I started posting. I actually just posted my journals on Facebook to begin with and received such incredible feedback of, when is your book coming out? I need you to write a book, yada, yada. That I realized, whoa, people really like my writing. It's helping the trail come alive for some people, because I tend to err on the side of description, which I've learned since isn't necessarily the most exciting 400 pages just by itself. So obviously I have not written a book, but yeah, I started getting a lot of positive feedback on it. So once I fit that, and honestly, going back to the post-trail depression, another thing I did is I started this blog. I started Appalachian Trail Clarity.net and or .com, excuse me, and I published those journals. And then as I was ridge running, I started seeing what all these new hikers were dealing with and the struggles they were having, questions that kept coming up hundreds of times a day. So I started using those to guide my next articles. On my blog, my gear list is there. I've got the before and the after. I strike through what I ended up taking out of the first load that I carried. And articles, one of my most popular articles was the top 10 mishaps Appalachian Trail Thru Hikers are making. And it's, shit like taking too much water or carrying too much food and, just things like that. There are 10 in there. So I've got one on the things I did to prepare for the hike mentally and physically, an article on how to leave no trace. So it became more informational. I've got a couple that are really popular, which I need to update, but mail drops and resupply options along the trail with mile markers going along with AWOL's guide. So yeah, that was another labor of love, but it was also a way that I could not only teach and help people, but that I could deal with my own experience and sharing and getting it out there.
Well, I know Fozzie is an expert in using writing as a tool to deal with post-trail depression. Clarity is, I confess that I retreated into the woods with a tent and a keyboard for months to figure out what the hell happened out there. Who knew that depressed writers could be so much fun to hang out with, right, guys?
Cheers to that.
Reptar, did you get any post-trail depression on either of your big hikes?
Oh man, hell yeah, I did, brother. Like the AT, not so much, because I think it's all about keeping busy. So with the Appalachian Trail, I had the documentary in the works. So I was able to relive trail life anytime I wanted to while I was working on this film for a year and a half.
Nice.
And so that was that. The trail depression was there, but just not as bad, because not only did I have somebody that I met on trail living with me, but I was able to relive the trail. However, when I got off the PCT, holy smokes, man, that hit me like a rock, because I was all alone. I had just moved to a new place. I didn't have a job lined up yet because it was weather that got me off trail earlier than I wanted to. And yeah, that was just, I had broken up with my girlfriend. And so, yeah, that was rough. And yeah, it's been rough. I'm not going to lie. 2018, that was a tough year for me just because, I was seeing all of my friends that I've met on all these trails out there hiking and living these outdoor lifestyles. And I was basically just like a slave to my job, trying to save enough money so I can go back and do it again. So I've just been like an animal in a cage, pacing back and forth, just waiting to get back out on trail. And fortunately, I'm almost at the light at the end of the tunnel. I get to go back June 19th, and I'm just over the moon about it.
Good for you.
I sometimes wonder if that's. I mean, obviously, I think there's a lot of reasons for trail depression. I think a lot of reasons we're probably not even aware of. But sometimes I think, is it because when we go and do these long through hikes on, I don't know, the PCT or the AT or wherever, it doesn't really matter. But a lot of the time, because it involves taking so much time away from work or even leaving a job, and there's a lot of upheaval. Maybe you have to leave your house and you leave your friends and your family, not to mention the financial burden of actually doing it. And then we do this thing and it's wonderful, and we find out what it's like just to go and sort of live in the wilds for 4, 5 or 6 months. And when we finished, we suddenly kind of realized that, maybe that's not only the first time we've done it, but maybe it's going to be the only time we've done it. A lot of people do these things, and because there's so much upheaval, they do generally do it just the one time. And I think just when you do finish, you suddenly realize that maybe I'm never going to actually get to do that again. And that's, I think, probably one of the most depressing thoughts you can get. You've done this amazing thing and you might not get to do it again. It's quite an awakener.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. Yeah, that's where I
definitely
am
would
right
have
now.
to agree.
Yeah,
And I think one of the pieces of advice that I'd give to people that are planning on doing a thru hike or something like that is to build yourself a safety net. So no matter what happens on the trail, whether or not you finish or you go all the way and finish, to have a solid plan established for when you get off trail, because reality hits hard, and once you get off trail, life is totally different. And like you said, Fozzie, I think that's kind of a rude awakening, going from living in the wilderness for months on end to getting thrown back into everyday society.
There's also the weather side of it as well. We finish these hikes invariably kind of late summer, and all of a sudden the daylight hours get less and less, and the temperatures start dropping. I mean, I kind of struggle through winter. I know a lot of people struggle through winter, and that was a big part as well. Often it seems like there's many sort of factors to sort of post-trail depression. There's getting off trail, and there's the weather, and realizing you might not get to do it again. And it's almost like you got euphoria for several months, and then you get back home and it's the complete opposite, and it's quite a shock. Personally, I think we should just all thru hike full time and have work breaks.
yeah.
We should get off trail for a couple of weeks and do some
break.
work.
I like that.
Then go back go back to thru hiking. We should just do it all full time. Just have little breaks for work.
A great idea.
Absolutely.
I would totally jump on board with that. Work depression.
I got work depression.
Yeah, as if that would be anything different than what we already have.
I am currently 1,237 zeros into my resupply before I yo-yo the AT. Okay. So I've got one or possibly two more questions, depending on how much time we've got. It looks like we've got about 8 minutes by my clock here. And usually we get a lot of questions from the chat, and we've got a pretty full chat room tonight. And I haven't really seen many questions. We've asked a couple of them as we've been going, but I think that's kind of a testament to your talent as a storyteller, Clarity, is that people have just been glued to every word you say, and too busy to type questions. But if anybody has any, go ahead and throw those up in the chat and we'll read them. And while we're doing that, here's one for you to think about or talk about while people are thinking of their questions. Clarity, this one's for you. And this is a loosely based on one that I sent you earlier today. So this is a time travel question. You have access to time travel, but you can only use it to go back in time, and you can only use it to visit yourself. How far back do you go, and what piece of advice do you give yourself?
That's a great question. I'll preface it to say there are not too terribly many things I would change about the way I felt. I think as far as my hike goes, I would advise myself, this small and minor, but I should have spent more nights unplanned, more nights cowboy, or more days where rather than going to the next shelter, because that was plan, I stumble across this beautiful campsite. You know what? Who cares? It's only 2:00. Stop there, make a day of it. So I think that would be the piece of advice I would give myself if I could go back in time to right before my thru hike. That's minor. And that's a testament to the experience I had. I lived it up and I've actually got an article on my blog about regrets, how to have no regrets on the Appalachian Trail. And I gathered data from other thru hikers and tried to learn what their biggest regrets were for the data in that article, but kind of like, I guess it was Reptar who's working on who worked on his video. I wrote so many stories, and I have no regrets. I don't know what I would tell myself other than that one small thing. I would like to do another one. So if I could look at myself right now and say,
"That's a form.
Allie, what are you thinking?"
That's a form of time travel. Going back and actually doing it again.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. This one's a little more fun. What's your favorite thing about hiking?
Oh man, kind of like my favorite thing about ridge running is I never knew if it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I didn't give a shit. Right now, I wake up on Mondays, I want to cry. And normally hiking, you don't care. And I think another favorite thing was I could be in any mood I wanted to be, and no one else gave a shit. It didn't affect anyone else. If I felt like being completely introverted and not talking to another soul, well, guess what? Easy. If I wanted to hang with people and wanted to have some company, easy. Go to a shelter. It didn't matter for once in my life. As an elementary teacher, you obviously have to be on, positive. At this point, this hike, it didn't matter anymore what kind of mood I was in when I woke up. And that kind of freedom of A, not knowing what day it is, B, not having to worry about what mood you wake up in is huge. And that's a lot of what.
Staring into the fire.
I do that here.
Well, that's awesome, and I can't think of a better positive note to end on. Do you guys have any last questions for Clarity?
Yeah, you want to go hiking sometime?
Yeah, girl, you name it. I actually am. My hope is to get a permit for the JMT next July, not this coming, next year. And I'll probably end up going no-boat because SOBO is almost impossible to get a permit. But anyway, yeah, hit me up. I would love.
That would be so much fun.
On my list. Are you going to Trail Days this year, by any chance?
Probably not. Because you know what? I'm not, because I'm going to the Linfoot hike in. I don't know if you guys have. That's May. It's like the middle week of May, right? Trail Day.
Yeah,
like
something 15,
like that.
16,
19th, like that. Yeah,
I don't know about that one.
Around that time.
Yeah, I'll be hiking. It's near Amclola, actually. So a girlfriend of mine. But and then I'm taking a grad school 3 credit hours for 1 week, 9 to 4. So probably I'm going to miss Trail Days this year, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Going to be out there learning things. Ugh.
Well, at least it is really fun shit. Leading a nonprofit. I'm getting a degree in nonprofit management leadership. So we'll see what happens.
Wow.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about that. I said I want to hear more about that, just not tonight because we are officially out of time.
Yeah.
Clarity, it's been a real treat having you hang out with us tonight.
Thank y'all so much. It's been a treat for me too.
So we actually do this every Wednesday at 7 Eastern, and if you ever want to come back, you've already got Discord set up. Feel free to hop on, and this is actually something that we do. We only record on Wednesday nights. This thing runs 24/7, and I pop in from time to time, and I see hikers asking each other questions and helping each other out. Somebody found a lost piece of gear and returned it to their owner. Neat things are starting to happen here as this Discord server grows. If you're at home listening to the recorded version of this and you're interested in joining us for one of our Wednesday night hangouts, everything you need is right there in your hand, assuming you're listening to this podcast on a phone or some sort of smart device. We put links for everything in the show notes. Just scroll down a bit. You'll see the button there. Just touch that, and it'll help you figure out everything from there. Other links that
you're scrolling down.
No,
feel free to leave us a 4. Is it 5-star? Is 5 the maximum? 5-star review?
Well, yeah, 5's the maximum. But I mean, if you really feel like we didn't, like maybe we phoned it in, a 4. We'll take some 4s. Those are okay.
We'll take maybe a 4.
Thanks.
Those that are lower than that, send us an email or like either go away or like let us know what you need from us, and we'll attempt to accommodate.
And where can they email us at, Megan?
They can email us at storiesfromthetrail@gmail.com.
That's not right.
TT at Gmail. Jesus, I haven't checked it in a while, guys.
I'll tell you what it is, and then you say it again.
sftt@gmail.com.
That's still not it.
sftttshow@gmail.com.
That's it, and I'm not going to edit this.
Yes. You know what the worst part is? I was the one who created the account.
It's true.
It's true.
Well, earlier I think I called.
It's just connected to my phone.
Trail.
What? One more time, Clarity?
I think I .netted my .com earlier today too, so it's all good.
That's fine. We
don't let them give you help.
That sounds
only
painful.
partial professionals.
We'll put a bunch of other links in the show notes, including the link to Clarity's blog, which if you're old-fashioned and want to write this down on a piece of paper with a pencil, it's http://www AppalachianTrailClarity.com. Is that right?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, and you have to spell out all that Appalachian Trail Clarity, not AT Clarity, right?
That one was taken.
I think that.
So yes, Appalachian Trail Clarity.
I think AT Clarity is a skin cream.
I think I saw an advertisement for that in Hiker Trash Vogue.
Oh yeah.
It was for that rash.
So we'll put links to all the other folks who appear on the show regularly. Fozzie, who has written many amazing books, Crazy Larry's, Hostel, Reptars, documentaries, and of course, there's a link. Oh, this is something we just started doing. There's a link for people who just can't quite get enough of my voice. I've put a link in the show notes that will allow you to get a free audio book on Audible as long as it's Where's the Next Shelter. And if you
such a good book. Well, I love that book.
Yeah, and if you get that book and then join Audible, that book is free, and the link is right there in the show notes. So that's a thing that you can do also.
Hey, we should actually do a Hiker Vogue.
Oh yeah, like we should meet up with Torque sometime and pose.
No, that would be amazing. Like make a Hiker Vogue of just pictures. I mean, I guess that is like the Hiker yearbook, but I mean like a full spread.
I would totally be down.
Hiker trash, like multiple poses, common hiking poses, maybe a poop squat pose.
It sounds like it might.
Do we have any photographers in the group?
I will definitely take on that challenge. I can't say that I'm any twerk, but I would give it my best.
Oh, and Captain Clambeard in the chat said definitely June needs a tasteful nude with quotes around it. I feel like that would be great. Like, Naked Hiking Day, we could do some creative poses.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Reptar, you'll be out there on the trail at that for Hike Naked Day, right?
Oh yeah, when it's on the solstice, isn't it?
Summer solstice, yeah.
June 20. What was it?
22nd, I believe. I think it's either the 21st or the 22nd.
Okay. Yeah, I will.
So it's around that time, though.
I will be on the trail.
So maybe
in my birthday suit that day.
Woohoo!
Ready for a photo shoot,
is have
right?
hosts and guests of Stories from the Trail take tasteful nudes on Nude Hiking Day, and we will compile them into a nude calendar, which can be one of our rewards for our patrons.
A real great reward. Everybody's gonna want that on their cubicle wall.
Yep. I think that's the last part of the show notes that we have to read for our sign off. Reptar, do you want to do a quick plug for our Patreon? Tell people where to go and why.
Oh, yeah. So if you enjoyed the show and would like to help keep the show going, it's kind of a give and take thing. This isn't donation. This is you giving to us so we can give back to you. We have a Patreon set up, which is patreon.com/stories from the trail.
That's right.
All right. Woohoo!
Woohoo, we got it. One of the things that all patrons get, even if you join at the ridiculously low $1 a month, is you get to hear all of these episodes about 4 weeks ahead of everyone else who gets it on the regular podcast feed, including all of the mistakes. I don't know why some people like that, but it seems to be popular.
Oh, Gary, you seem to leave a lot of my mistakes in the show.
I actually encourage them. I try to help you make them. It's so much fun.
That means if people join from England, Gary, on a Patreon thing, they get them 4 weeks and 5 hours ahead of everybody else.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Oh,
But I think
Time travel.
isn't that
Perhaps you
accounted?
could sell that as a perk for the European community. They get it just 5 hours earlier than everybody else. In fact, in Greece, they'd get it about 4 weeks and 8 hours earlier.
I think the exchange rate accounts for the time difference, though, doesn't it? Like it shaves off a couple of. Is it pence? Or
Yeah, they
pounds
might
or-
lose a bit on that one, but
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Oh boy.
I hope.
Okay, so this is the part where, as Megan predicted, Gary starts talking about food, which I think I can kind of
Gary's
smell.
gotta go.
I can kind of smell it from here, and it's making me very
Pizza?
hungry. I think it's turkey burgers and tater tots on the menu tonight.
Ooh.
All right, Megan.
Well, I
doesn't-
just want
well,
to say, Clarity, it was a pleasure talking to you and nice meeting you. And thank you for
Thanks for hanging
joining.
out with us.
That was fun, guys. I'm happy to come back if you guys ever want to talk about anything else.
I think we might actually.
Glad to have you.
I think that we have more questions, but we'll save them.
Okay, sounds good. Y'all were a hell of a lot of fun tonight. Thanks a bunch. Cool. Thank you, Green Giant. Appreciate it.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Clarity.
Bye, y'all. That was fun.
Good
I got
show.
Thanks, Larry. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Stories from the Trail is a production of thetrek.co. Zach Davis, editor-in-chief. Each episode is recorded in front of a live internet audience. You can be part of that internet audience if you care to join us on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. There's a link in the show notes that tells you everything you need. Our music is by Lee Rosevere. Your hosts are Green Giant, Voldemort, and Reptar. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those places. Just look for Stories from the Trail. It's probably us. The show is recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Gary Sizer, in Blanket Fort Studios, which is just me in my basement with a blanket over my head. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.